Hello there, collectors, hobbyists, sports fans, and web content enthusiasts, and welcome to our closing show for our Winter Platinum Night auction. I am Mike Provenzale, the production manager in the Heritage Sports Department, and joining me, as always, from parts unknown, is the most lovable, the most bear hug giving person in the industry, Mr. Tony Yeezy. Tony, how you doing tonight?
I am well and looking forward to this. It's always fun. Platinum Nights are always a unique auction. The best of the best is always being sold during Platinum Night, so it's fun watching all these bids come in at the end and the excitement generated by this. There's nothing like it.
And we had a series of previews. I was at the one in Chicago. We had one in our New York City office on Park Avenue that Jason Simons attended. And we've taken some of this material to shows as well. Tony, you had some of this in Canada, correct?
We had some in Canada. We actually were at the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis
a
few weeks ago. So a lot of wrestling fans got to see some pretty cool, iconic items from the Macho Man and the Von Erich collection. So it's been a blast getting it out there to our all of our public bidders and everybody else. It's been a blast.
So tonight is session 1 closing. Extended bidding will begin at 10 p.m. Central Time, so you can bid on everything up until then. And then session 2 closes tomorrow night. Same story. Extended bidding begins at 10 p.m. Central Time. You can watch all the bids come in live at ha.com on our recent bid screen where the bids come in live. We'll keep you posted on those. And me and Tony are going to talk about some of our favorite items in the auction, things that are moving up the bid board, things that should be highlighted. And we're even going to have a special unknown guest joining us soon. So let's kick it off. Tony, I always like to start with the top estimated item in the auction, and this one is certainly deserving of that spot. Need I say more than Babe Ruth rookie card?
In a PSA 7, no less.
PSA 7, one of the most coveted cards in the hobby. It's the M1014 Sporting News Ruth with the blank back. And as you said, Tony, this is a PSA near mint 7, pop 2, none higher, so plenty of superlatives. And I've been lucky enough to see this one in person many times over the past few weeks, and it's unbelievable to see a card this old, this important, in this incredible condition.
Yeah, I mean, you could go a long time without seeing any of these sell, and this kind of grade and this kind of shape, it's unheard of. Most of them are really in rough shape, PSA authentic or PSA 2s or 3s, but to have one in this grade is just incredible, and it moves the radar, as we say.
Yeah, and there's only 23 of these in the PSA pop for this version, the M1014 blank back. So a true rarity. And for those that are fans of this set, we have an amazing collection of sporting news cards in this auction, including, of course, the Joe Jackson, another key from the set. That one also a near mint 7. Pop 2, none superior, just like the Ruth. Any Shoeless Joe material is incredibly rare, including his cards, and this is one that is very desirable. Then we've got a Nap Lajoie as well, and this one's in a near mint 8. Unbelievable example for Nap. Love the portrait on this one. Also a pop 2, none superior. You're going to hear that a lot with this collection of sporting news. There's a few of them. These are all closing tonight. The majority of them will be closing tomorrow in session 2. Another one closing tonight, Ty Cobb in a near mint 7. And this one is all alone at the top of the pops. Pop 1, just 1 superior. So incredible example. And then my favorite from the set, the Walter Johnson in a PSA 8. This one is a beauty. Love the image of the big train about to hurl the ball. This one in an 8 is a pop 2, just 1 superior as well. So a really important set, and one of the finest being broken up tonight. And we'll find some new owners. As I said, the first 4 there are closing tonight, and then the bulk of the set will be closing tomorrow night in session 2. Tony, how many sporting news cards do you have in your
I
collection?
have absolutely none, but I love the photography on those cards. That Ty Cobb with the bat in hand, ready to hit the ball, and Walter Johnson as well. I mean, it's a classic look at some early baseball and some of the earlier cards, and it's a timeless look on these higher grade ones too. You don't see these very often, and this is an amazing collection.
Yeah, the majority of them in PSA 7s and 8s. Really remarkable to see. Another one of my favorites, and a favorite for most collectors, is the 55 Topps Clemente Rookie, which we see a lot of them, but very few in this grade. A mint 9, Tony. Unbelievable example. Only one graded higher. There's just 110.
This card is, centering is always a problem on this card. And that's one thing that you rarely ever get that 9 grade. You can occasionally find an 8, but a 9 is almost unheard of. And just centering on those is just notoriously tough. And this one here has got it all. It's gorgeous registration, gorgeous corners, and amazing centering. So it kind of has everything you could want, and such an important issue.
Yeah, interested to see where that ends up. In a 9, it's a pop 11 with just the one example grading a 10. So one of the finest that exists from one of the most popular cards in the hobby. And then next, the other end of the spectrum, the ultra modern. This is a 2024, Tony, and it is the Topps Now Shohei Ohtani Gold Auto 50/50 Club 1 of 1. This Topps Now is the highest selling Topps Now product of all time. They sold over 670,000 packs of these. It surpassed the U.S. men's basketball Olympic team Topps Now with KD and LeBron and Curry. And our consigner was the lucky one who pulled it, an individual in Canada. Great story. He was actually he'd just gotten engaged, thinking about buying a house. He was thinking about selling his collection, which he had a nice collection of some cards and some memorabilia. He plays on a softball team. He's a big Ohtani fan, and one of his teammates said, "Oh, you should buy some of these Topps Now." He's kind of went back and forth. He said, "Well, I'm thinking about getting out of collecting," but he decided to buy them. He went to pick them up from the post office. They came via the postal service to Canada. He was so excited to open them up. He took the box, got in the cab of his truck, used his keys to open the box, ripped the packs right there, and pulled out the redemption for this 1 of 1 Ohtani card. Couldn't believe it. He was in a state of shock. He called his cousin, sent him a picture of the redemption to confirm it was the one. His cousin confirmed that's it. He said the 3-minute drive back to his house felt like 3 hours. He was in such a daze. He reached out to us, decided to consign. He came down to our home office here in Dallas, where the Topps factory is as well. We went with him to pick it up. Topps people were great. And then we all flew out to California, got it graded at PSA. And as you can see, Gem Mint 10 and a beautiful autograph from Ohtani there with the 50/50 Club inscription and the September 19th, 24 date of the game where he created the 50/50 Club. Tony, did you buy any of these Topps Now?
I have not bought any of the Topps Now, but that story in itself just tells you that no matter where you are, if you're United States, Canada, wherever, you have the chance of getting something like this, and it keeps people going out buying cards. It's a great concept, Topps Now. You can have some achievement happen, and the next day they can have a card out already. So it's an amazing concept. It's been really popular, of course, and having the highest selling one here at Heritage, I mean, we can't be more proud. And especially with Ohtani, the hottest player in baseball, coming off winning the World Series. They're going to be the favorites again this year. So it's a lot of times I always say this, it's the story. Yes, it's the piece, but it's also the story behind it. That just tells you that they always have a chance of getting something this special. which I love.
And a good note of the global popularity of Ohtani, of course, incredibly popular in the U.S. and Japan, but this is a huge Ohtani fan from Canada that got in and pulled the redemption card. And great guy. We met him and his cousin when he went on the tour with us. And that's one that's seen a lot of movement in just the last few hours. It was at 160,000 a few hours ago, and now it's up at 185 there. So I'm expecting to see some fireworks tonight for it.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one to watch. And it's just amazing that can happen. And you can literally pull that out of a pack. I love that he opened it with his key, you said?
He said it had extra packaging going through the customs to get there. And he didn't have a knife on him or a box cutter, so he used his key to tear through it. He was so excited to open them.
You can't top that at all.
And then he sent a picture of it to his group chat for his softball team, and he was going to keep it a secret, but one of his teammates posted the pic on his social media, and that kind of let the cat out of the bag. So he called us right after that, and he's going to have an exciting night, I know.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch and see where that goes, because I think that there's going to be room for that, and we're excited to have it.
Tony, do we have any iconic photo-matched game-worn jerseys in this auction?
We've got some very interesting jerseys in this auction. One being a 1972 Hank Aaron game-worn photo-matched jersey that, it's a popular style. It's when they first went to knit jerseys in the early 70s, and there's the famous Braves feather on the shoulders, on the sleeve ends. Really good wear on this jersey, and also having it photo matched to a couple undated images, 6 undated photographs from the 72 season as Aaron was chasing down Babe Ruth's record. As far as knit jerseys go, this is one of the most unique styles, the cut of the Braves and of the numbers. It's just really, really nice. But when I was looking at that, I was watching the bid board, and we have an amazing 1957 Hank Aaron game used bat, PSA DNA game used 10 from his MVP season and the Braves World Series, right now at 160,000. So Hank Aaron's starting to get some love here, I would have to say. 2 really nice pieces of Hank Aaron memorabilia that'll be ending tonight. So just kind of
cool to watch. 72 jersey, the same style he was wearing when he broke Babe's record, that blue. And big season for him in 72. He passed 2,000 RBIs that season. He became MLB's all-time bases leader. And at age 38, he smashed 34 home runs that year.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, again, I love that style. When they went from the flannels to the knits, it's like, well, what are they going to lose? But I mean, my God, with the whole name and the number and the feather, there's a lot of cool points on this, and it's triple tagged as well. So it's got the 2 sand knit labels, and then it's got the year and the set tag as well. So there's a lot of things going, and especially having it photo matched, that always is the equalizer and the thing that'll take it to the next level. I think that one, I'm really excited to see that one, and to find out what it's going to end at. The bat is performing extremely well, though, too. I mean, 160, that's an amazing number. There's not a lot of early Aaron bats that have sold. Most of the ones that you find are, 73 to 76, kind of towards the end. But this one is an earlier bat, and again, it's got everything we would want. Great use, nice signature, and from an MVP season and World Series season too.
That's unbelievable.
The next one.
We've been talking all baseball, Tony.
I think this is my favorite jersey in the auction. When you think of Pistol Pete, he was a great NBA player, but where he really made his run was in college at LSU. And this one here, photo match, LSU, gorgeous design, that purple with the yellow and purple and white piping around the shoulders and the neckline. This one here is just a gorgeous, gorgeous example. And another, of course, the biggest selling point being that it photo matched by MyGray. There's not much Maravich material out there, but anything from his college days are really coveted, and there's just not much that hasn't surfaced. And this one here is going to be just, I think going to be one of the finest college jerseys that has ever sold. Just
And
amazing, amazing,
his
great style.
debut season, because it's photo matched to his sophomore year. Freshmen couldn't play at the time, so that was his first year of action. And all he did was mess around and average 43 points a game as a sophomore. And some researchers went back. That was before the 3-point line. And if he had been playing with the 3-point line, it would have been over 50 points a game that he was scoring. And I think even a little more, because had he known he could have been getting 3 points, I think he would have backed up on some of those mid-range jumpers.
And gotten that extra point, yeah. I mean, he was a guy that was so far ahead of his time. He just played the game differently than everybody else did. And in college is where he just made such a name for himself. And this one here, it's just a special, special jersey. And again, photo matched. It's a great style. I love that purple and the yellow together. It's a great look, and one of the finest college jerseys that is out there.
And really interesting because, we've sold some really incredible college jerseys, both basketball and football, but they're always a tier below the pro level gamers. But this one is kind of an exception because while he was an all-star and a great pro, in college, he was the best player. He was number one. Mm-hmm. His scoring average, his point total will never be touched. I mean, he just put it out there too far. So this is one of those examples where a college jersey is just going to far exceed any Maravich NBA jersey that you can find.
That's a very good point. You don't think of him as, I guess you could say, with the Jazz, but when you really think of Maravich dominating the hardwood, it was LSU, where he was just, off the charts, better than everybody else. And again, that would never happen again. I don't think that it could happen again. It's such a beautiful looking jersey, with that purple Doreen and just everything. There's a lot of really cool points on it. And I love that LSU, the way they have it around the number like that. And
our last platinum auction, we had a stellar LSU jersey as well. We sold actually the whole uniform, Shaq's LSU uniform, also photo match, that posted a huge number. So interesting to see how this one compares with that one.
Yeah, that Shaq one I loved because I was a big Shaq guy when he was at LSU. That's when I really got into basketball, and it had that American flag on it, I believe. And just again, photo match Shaq. Shaq was a dominant player. Not quite that dominant like Pistol Pete, but in his own right, he was really good. But if whoever got that jersey is going to want this one.
Yeah, you got to pair them up. We'll send you 2 mannequins of the same person.
Free of charge.
Right next to each other. All right, more iconic photo match gamers. This one with the iconic number 7 on the back. This is a 1957 Mickey Mantle game-worn pinstripe jersey. We had this on display in our gallery in our world headquarters in Dallas, and it gets the most people looking at it. You have coin collectors, you have art collectors, you have comic book collectors coming in, and they walk through the gallery to get into the building, and you just see that pinstripe number 7. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about sports or baseball, it just stops you down, and this one is stunning.
Yeah, it is, and it's from his MVP season. This is from the height of his run in Major League Baseball. He was just so dominating during that. His whole career he was, but during this stage, from 55 to 58, he was just on top of his game. And when you think of Mantle pinstripes number 7, it's got everything that you could possibly want, and it is photo matched, I believe, isn't it?
Some great photo matches. In fact, this is my favorite. I love it when it's photo match. It's photo match to games. I'll get to those in a second. But it's photo match to the April 13th Mantle's appearance on the NBC TV special Salute to Baseball to mark the start of the season. We've had a Mantle jersey that was photo match to the Home Run Derby show. But that's just a cool note when baseball was the number 1 draw on TV, and you had the stars in uniform a lot, and they were wearing the uniforms that they were about to wear on the field. So it's photo match to that NBC special. It's photo matched to 2 games in a series in May versus the Senators, where he hit 2 home runs. In June, he got the 1956 American League Silver Bat Award, and it's photo matched to that trophy presentation. It's photo matched to July 23rd, when Mantle hit the only cycle of his career. And in that game, he hit a 465-foot home run that almost left Yankee Stadium. And it's photo matched to September 15th, when the Yankees got their 91st victory, which was the pennant clincher. And then there's 2 apparent photo matches, one to the 57 World Series and one to his 57 tops Yankees power hitters card with him and Berra, number 407. So checking a lot of boxes with all those photo matches.
Yeah, I think you can put this Mantle jersey up with anyone in the hobby, probably. I mean, especially when it was worn, and it has multiple photo matches. It's got that embroidery in the bottom and that classic number 7. I mean, that is just something that you just it just stops you. It just stops you when you see that. And you got another one too, don't you? That's pretty iconic, don't you?
Yeah. So another pinstripe Yankees jersey. This is a Roger Maris gamer from 1961, the year he broke Babe Ruth's single-season home run record. Photo matched as well. It is not the jersey he was wearing in the final game when he hit the 61st home run, but it is photo matched to 5 home runs from 5 different games. So an incredible piece of baseball history right here. And looking into the 61 season, all the pressure that he was under, him and Mantle in the home run race, if anyone was going to beat Ruth, all the fans wanted it to be Mantle, not Maris. Mantle gets injured at the end of the year, so he falls off the pace. And there was almost some sentiment that people didn't want Maris to break the record, including the commissioner at the time, who made a statement at the end of the year that in order for it to be considered the record, he would have to do it in the same amount of games as Babe Ruth. So even the commissioner putting a protective dome over Ruth's record. So when you think about all the pressure that he was under, and he did it, and this is one of the 4 uniforms he wore that season, just an incredible piece, and it's over $500,000 right now.
Yeah, again, the pinstripe, everything just matches on this thing. And having it from that season, from 61, I mean, you got a Mantle from an MVP season, and you've got a Maris from 61. It doesn't get much better.
Yeah, and I love that it's got the embroidered 61 for the year in the front tail of the jersey, but then it's also 61 home runs that he hit that season. That's a great little aesthetic addition to the jersey.
And to have the whole, set, the pants and the stirrups too.
Down
I mean,
to
that's not very common.
Yeah, you got to get one of those. We usually use the torso mannequins, but if you're going to display this, you're going to need the full body one, because we got the pants and the socks to go with it. Also, some Maris cleats, game-worn cleats in this auction. So if you win this uniform, you got to get the cleats as well to complete it all.
You have to. There's no, the guy who wins the Maravich, is gonna have to have the Shaq. Whoever wins, this one has to get the shoes too.
And this next one is probably my favorite. I spent a lot of time looking at this one when it was on display in the gallery. 1942 Stan Musial game-worn jersey, and this is just a beautiful garment with that classic Cardinals logo with the 2 birds on the black bat. And man, this is checking a lot of boxes. So 42 was Musial's rookie year, and the Cardinals won the World Series that year. They didn't give out the Rookie of the Year award back then. They didn't do that until 47. Jackie Robinson was the first person to win it. But if they had it, Musial definitely would have won it. He was 11th in MVP voting that season, so unquestionably the best rookie in the league. And it's got the zipper front. It's got the health patch on the side, which all the players were wearing during wartime. And it's got a nice autograph from Musial, and he put 42 world champs on it in the inscription.
The best logo in baseball history, I think they've had. And having the black bats, that's a very rare style. They didn't use it for very long. and with the chenille and everything else, and Musial rookie year. Could you imagine if that happened
I know.
again? I mean, it would be the biggest deal ever. I mean, if a guy, as a rookie won a World Series like that and was so good. And it's Stan Musial. I mean, he was just, I don't think I've ever heard somebody utter a bad word about this guy. Everybody loved him. And it's just such a great look with the zipper and the piping and the health patch.
And the retired number 6 on the back, in the argument for best to ever wear a Cardinals jersey, and to have the rookie and the world championship status as well with it is just chef's kiss. All right, let's talk about some modern guys.
Yeah, this one, when it came in here, it really shocked me. Pat Mahomes, 2020 game used, Kansas City Chiefs, photo match to November 22nd against the Raiders. When this jersey came in here, the amount of wear on it, usually on these jerseys, they'll be washed or there's light wear. Quarterbacks don't usually incur a lot of, their jerseys don't have a ton of use. This one is the exception. I mean, there is field paint all through. It's the white road jersey, but it was an easy photo match on this one. It's signed, but the grass staining is incredible. And there's not a lot of his gamers that have reached the auction block, this being probably the nicest as far as wear that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he was tiptoeing down the sidelines and then ducking out of bounds in this jersey.
He got hit or he was diving pretty good in this one. But just amazing wear. Because, again, quarterbacks don't usually take too much punishment anymore, especially in today's game. And
also a win over their big rival, the Raiders. I guess the Chiefs still consider the Raiders a rival. Certainly the Raiders consider the Chiefs a rival. But, that's just a nice little addition there. And Mahomes, of course, had a huge game. So it's got it all. And interesting to see where this does with the Chiefs losing the Super Bowl, but Mahomes still considered the top player in the league right now. People are already talking about them going for 3 out of 4 like the Cowboys did in the 90s. So very interested to see where this one ends up at the end of the night.
Yeah, I think with this one, though, there's not very many of his jerseys out there. So I think that's what makes it so special. I don't think you're going to see a lot of these coming out anytime soon. So I think that's what'll make this one a really good keeper.
Yeah, and it only came out because he traded it on the field with a player.
Yes.
It was the Raiders tight end, Morrow. So, and he must have gifted it to someone, maybe a friend or family member, an agent or a lawyer. So that's really the only way these come out. Same with the Tom Brady Pats jersey we have. It was an on-field trade with Julio Jones, and that's the only reason that it's hit the market.
That's a pretty good trade.
Yeah, not bad. All right, let's do some basketball.
Yeah, the next one here is one of the most incredible pieces of Kobe Bryant history I've ever seen. 25,000 point basketball photo matched with family provenance. Just amazing that they can photo match a basketball, because usually you think of jerseys, you think of maybe bats, but this basketball is actually photo matched to his 25,000th point against the Cavaliers, no less. So really incredible piece of Kobe history.
Yeah, and very special that it was Kobe versus LeBron in 2010. Mm-hmm. That's when Kobe was nearing the end of his career, and LeBron was unquestionably the best player in the league. He was the reigning MVP. So that is a really nice addition. It's photo matched to the game. Very likely the ball he used to score that 25,000th point, because it was in the game, and that's the one they pulled out to paint. And usually they stop it down for such a thing and acknowledge somebody like Kobe, and the equipment manager will hold on to the ball that it happened with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I mean, it actually shows pretty good use as well. The basketball does, and it looks great with that painting on there like that. They did a wonderful job on that. And Kobe, of course, is Kobe, and he's a guy that's always going to be relevant in basketball history. One of the top Lakers, of course, as well.
All right, so plenty more going on. Tony, why don't you give us some updates from the
Some
bid?
updated bids. Let's see. 51 Bowman Mantle, SGC 7.5, 70,000. Nolan Ryan, 73 Game Worn Angels photo match at 50. That one's making a nice move right now. 1966 Topps Baseball, 4 Series, unopened box, 130,000.
Beautiful wax box.
Yeah. We're starting to see some movement on the Bill Mazeroski 1960 game used uniform. That one's photo matched to the World Series, no less, at 26. So things are starting to move a little bit. Kind of a neat one. 87 Phil Simms Super Bowl game worn jersey photo match, 42,000. So people are starting to get their bids in, and we've got a little under an hour and a half.
90 minutes until
90 minutes is the official clock.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the most important person on the Heritage staff join us.
Hello, this is Joe Orlando, Executive Vice President at Heritage Sports. In the world of vintage set building, number one cards have long been a source of frustration for the high-grade collector. Long before the days of 3-ring binders, plastic sleeves, and third-party grading, these cards were placed in harm's way more often than those located elsewhere in the sequence. The general exposure to potential trauma and increased handling occurred because these cards faced the world without a shield. Number one cards were like a quarterback without an offensive line. They were out in the open and could be hit at will. Furthermore, rubber bands, which were commonly used to bind small groups, constricted many number one cards at the top of the stack, leaving their impression along the way. While number one cards have featured lesser known players and established stars, there is no more sought after or recognizable number one card than that of former Brooklyn Dodger Andy Pafko in the 1952 Topps set. Pafko operates as the leadoff man for the hobby's most iconic post-war production. The Pafko card is such a staple in hobby lore that it was featured in the 2010 movie Cop Out, starring Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan. In the film, Willis's character Jimmy is on a mission to retrieve a Pafko card that was stolen from him, one that he planned on selling to pay for his daughter's wedding. The card itself tends to overshadow the kind of player Pafko was.
Welcome a member of the 1948 Chicago Cubs, Andy Pafko.
He may not be Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays when it comes to star power, but Pafko was more than capable. Pafko was a 4-time All-Star who hit over 200 home runs during his 17-year career. His card might be referred to by many as the hobby's most noteworthy common, but Pafko's performance was anything but. It has been years since the last PSA Near Mint 8 example was offered at auction, and Heritage is proud to present this stellar specimen in 2025. After over 2,500 submissions to PSA, only 10 examples have reached the 8 grade or higher. The bidding for our Winter Platinum auction is live, and it ends during a 2-day span on February 22nd and 23rd. Remember to get your qualifying bids in now so you can participate in the extended bidding period each night. Until next time, happy heritage hunting.
10, baby. Wow.
So you picked up the pack. Where did you open it?
Yeah, there's just the local post office. So basically,
Right when you got it in hand, you get back in the
yeah,
truck.
no, I picked up the I picked up the box. I didn't have I used my keys to get through because it has to go through customs coming to Canada. So there's
Right.
extra
Few extra
paperwork
layers.
and tape and everything. Got through it with my truck keys. So yeah, when I opened the package, this is what I saw. Saw the gold parallel again. Now learning what the checklist was, and seeing it was one of one, and then had to enter this code on the back. Actually, if you see the picture on Topps Instagram account, you can actually kind of see my reflection half in the photo.
I think you did that on purpose just to get your face.
Yeah,
out
exactly.
there
Yeah,
a
that's
bit.
exactly what I'm trying to do. But yeah, literally in the parking lot, ripped it, screamed, called a friend, sent the picture to the softball team, and then found out about the checklist and everything. And I'm like, oh guys, please don't tell anybody. Next thing I know, obviously people were told. I would say I would do the same thing. and then woke up and it's on Instagram, and I'm like,
So that drive home after you open it, you have these conversations. Best drive ever or scariest drive ever?
it's funny because like honestly, I don't even. The post office is literally like 2 minutes from my house, but I feel like that drive was like 30 minutes. My mind wouldn't let me believe what it was. So I'm sitting in the car, not doing anything, go inside, come back outside, walk around my front yard just pacing, and like then called my cousin, and I'm like, Mike, you gotta come over. You gotta come over. He's like, yeah, he's driving back from work or something.
And we got one more step. We got to get it graded. So should we head out to California?
Absolutely, let's go.
And here we go.
Amazing.
Have you ever been to PSA's headquarters before?
No, never. First time. It's gorgeous.
It's a place where the magic happens. Here it is, fully graded. Take a look.
10, baby. Wow.
It felt like the day I opened the redemption card. It's kind of, I'm sweating again. The last few days, I've just kind of been driving around killing time waiting for this.
That's the whole point of the industry right there, and what Topps does to make the cards. It's to recreate that nostalgia, turn us all into kids again. And then the fun part for us at Heritage is somebody's going to win this, and they're going to be just as excited as you were when you were opening, because they are going to get to own it.
No, exactly. And like, I know it's going to end up with someone that like will appreciate it as much as I do. Like, that's like knowing it's in a place where someone wants it that bad. Like that's also comforting, because I do care about it.
Very excited that you chose Heritage to consign it, and we're looking forward to maximizing the exposure. It's a one-of-a-kind card, one-of-a-kind year for Ohtani, and we can't wait to see what it does in our Winter Platinum auction. And there he is, our consigner. You can see the excitement on his face with that Ohtani 1/1. It's going to find a new home tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time. You know, it's fun to watch me and Tony talk about this stuff. But there's one person on the Heritage staff that everybody wants to hear his insight, have him share his knowledge. He's one of the most important people in the industry and one of the nicest people in the industry. This is the script he gave me to read before I introduced him. But ladies and gentlemen, our Executive Vice President, Mr. Joe Orlando. Joe, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Tony, can you do something about this? I mean, one of these guys, please, like, just walk over to wherever he's hiding.
I was gonna do like a drum roll maybe or something, you know.
We should do some entrance music like The Rock or something like that. He does have that kind of lofty status.
Next time.
All right.
Next time. I'll work on it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Joe. Joe is here, like most of our staff, at our world headquarters in Dallas for the auction closing this weekend. He's talking to clients, he's looking at items for them, and he's good enough to share some of his knowledge and some of the items he's really enjoying in the auction. So, Joe, let's get it rolling.
All right, let's pull up if Tommy can pull up that first link, we'll go from there. So I know you guys touched on this card and one of the others already. The only thing I wanted to add about the Ohtani card is simply this, is that you mentioned the key that it's the highest selling Topps Now card of all time. And the card itself is really aesthetically beautiful. It's a great shot of him, connecting and with the background and everything. But the thing that really struck me is after he accomplished this and they went into the World Series, for everyone who watched that, great World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees, you might have noticed that he injured himself trying to steal second base. And it wasn't a season-ending injury or anything like that. But if it were during the regular season, they would have rested him. It was the World Series, so he played through it. He eventually got some minor surgery to repair it. But the point being that I really doubt that they are going to let him run as freely as he did last year in the future, because his bat is so valuable to the team. So this accomplishment, this might be it. Like, this might be the only time that he does it or anyone else does it in our lifetimes. And I think that adds a little bit to the uniqueness of the card and certainly to the accomplishment. But that moment in the World Series, to me, changes the way they use him going forward. If Dave Roberts lets him run freely again, he probably should be let go from the team. I mean, his bat is too valuable.
I agree that they're going to make a change. They have a great squad and an excellent chance to repeat, but it's key that he's in the lineup to do that. So I expect him to not be pitching and not be as free on the base pass as he was this past season.
Yeah, for sure. So if we can move on to the next link, we'll keep going here. So just saw the video that Tommy put together, which was
Great work.
Really great. He always does such a wonderful job. So, you know, I was looking this up when this card came in on consignment. There hasn't been a PSA 8 1952 Topps Pafco sold publicly since I think 2017.
Wow.
Which seems like yesterday, but it's not. That's how quickly the years go. But it is, I mean, this is a rare opportunity. And this is one of those cards, and we'll get to the Clemente later, which you touched on already as well. There are those high-grade cards, specifically from the 50s and back, where the pop report in high grade really doesn't move all that much, barring a find of some sort. And this is one of those cards. Like, I think the pop, if you look back in history, and of course there's no easy way to do this, but I don't think the pop has moved a great deal over the past 10 to 20 years on this particular card. And so it makes you realize that if you're building a high grade 52 top set, when it comes up, you better take your shot, because it may be a long time until the next one comes available. This is not like some of the cards made later where high-grade examples come up from time to time and you have more of an opportunity. But the Pafco, as we've talked about, we certainly talked about it on the video, it is the most iconic, if you want to call it that, #1 card of any set, because it's the leadoff man to the most popular post-war set of all time, and home to, of course, the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle. I mean, some people would argue there are others that are in contention, perhaps the #1 1933 Gaudy Benny Bengao card, and there are certainly a number of other really interesting #1 cards, but nothing like the Pafco because of its scarcity and, again, the popularity of the set. So for those of you out there that need one, that are looking for one, it's been 8 years since the last one came available in this grade, so it really is a terrific opportunity.
And we've had a lot of great set break auctions, and we've seen how competitive those people that participate in the set registry are, and especially for the 52 Topps set registry. So those opportunities, when one of the few high-grade examples comes up, we always see a lot of fireworks in the late stages of bidding.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, the movie Cop Out, which this card was featured in, it's actually fairly entertaining for those of you who haven't seen it. The fact that they used this card in that movie, it was basically the centerpiece of the movie, just shows you from a pop culture standpoint what this card means, even though it's not Mickey Mantle and it's not Babe Ruth or anybody, any major star. It's Andy Pafco, but that said a lot. When you saw it pop up in that movie, you're like, okay, this is on another level compared to the other #1 cards of lesser known players.
Indeed. Beautiful one to see in person as well.
Oh yeah. It has a really kind of sparkling look to it. Just the print quality is outstanding on the card. So Tommy, we can move. Yep, here we go. So this is another card from the set, 1952 Topps Willie Mays. The reason I picked this card is because, you know, as you guys know and the listeners know, as you go up the grading scale, you know, the cards can escalate in price very quickly. This is one of those cards where it offers, I think, great bang for the buck because of the eye appeal. It's quote unquote only a 7.5. It's not an 8. It's not an 8.5, a 9 or better. But if you look at the card, it's what a lot of veteran collectors call problem-free. And what I mean by that is that there's not one detracting defect on the card. It just has minor corner wear. But the eye appeal, the picture at the center of the card, and the print quality is outstanding. It's very well centered. And again, if you just look at the picture, if you zoom in on it, it's just, it really is an outstanding example from that perspective. So it gives you really good eye appeal value in a grade that isn't going to cost you $150,000 or more.
And especially for that 52 Topps series, we've seen some really incredible numbers for the highlight key cards that are well centered and have those aesthetics on the front. Especially the Mantles, the Jackie Robinsons, the ones that just present better than the grade have really had some incredible results in the last few years.
Yeah, there's no doubt that collectors are becoming more and more discerning, and I think that that's a good thing. The market is sort of, answering the question with their wallets, of what they want to see, what they're going to pay a premium for, and that's a good thing.
And, we always say buy the card, not the grade. And in the past few years since the pandemic, so many new people or returning people have come in. And I think that group as well puts a lot of emphasis just on the aesthetics. They haven't been poring over population reports and looking at grading standards for decades like a lot of us. I think those people that are a little newer to the industry are just saying, how does it look? And that's going to determine how much I'm going to pay.
Right. I mean, why do we all buy these things? It's because they look great. And
right.
It's going to be a theme, I think, throughout some of these other cards. But that's at the end of the day, regardless of the grade, you want something that's aesthetically beautiful.
That one's got it for sure.
Yeah. So we can go on to the next. So again, I know you guys touched on this card already, so I'll just make this brief. I mean, like the PAFCO, this is one that if you go back in time, the pop report has barely moved in the last 10 to 20 years. Which means that this is the kind of card that when you look for long-term value in the grade, it definitely will hold up and then some. And then in addition, as I mentioned, there's that idea of, is this a quote unquote problem-free card inside the grade? This card is well centered. And Tony mentioned that's one of the challenges on the Clemente rookie is the centering, but the print quality is spectacular on this card. I mean, 1955 Topps cards, period. Almost all of them have some noteworthy print, even in high grade, even in the grade of 9. They'll have some print along the face. This one is as clean as a Clemente really can get. So it is an outstanding example inside the grade.
I was showing this one off to a noted coin collector who came by the gallery this week, and they were asking, do the colors always look this bright? They said it looks like it was just printed today. And they know a ton about coins, but knew nothing about cards. And this one was even shocking them.
Right. And the reality is there in every grade, there are variances, right? You'll see some cards that, are on the lower end of the 9 spectrum. Some are on the higher end. This one is as nice as a 9 is going to get for this card.
Yeah, so excited to see where that one ends up tonight. That's a special one indeed.
So this one, it's a little anticlimactic in the sense that the price for this card is already so high, in terms of beating the estimate.
It had a big week, I saw.
Yes, it did. The reason I chose this card is just to show it's kind of what you were talking about, Mike. A 1961 Topps Call Yastrzemski. A is not his rookie card. His rookie is the previous year, 1960 Topps. It's not considered his toughest card. Even his next year, his 1962 Topps with the brown borders. You could argue his 1963 Topps cards are generally tougher than his 1961 Topps. But when you look at this card, it's pure artwork. I mean, it just has that. There's a look that certain cards have. The centering, the colors, it just looks so fantastic. This is a great example of how aesthetics can overpower other facets, other aspects of the card. Like I said, it's not his rookie. It's not necessarily his toughest card, but the way the card simply looks is, I know there are 3 other 10s of this card. I can't imagine that any of the other 10s look as good as this card does. It's just amazing looking.
And the portraits on the 61s have so much detail, the shadowing, like when you look under his hat and in his neck, it has all these added details that a lot of issues just kind of disregarded and didn't include. And these just pop off at you. Like you said, it looks like a painting or a masterpiece of artwork. Yeah.
I mean, look at the greens and the blues. It's such an aesthetic.
The shrubbery in the background.
The shrubbery, yeah, the shrubbery. Yeah, where is he standing? Nobody knows.
No idea.
He's in the woods or something. But no, it's just a great card. Obviously, the collecting community is responding to it very, very well. But just a remarkable looking card from a visual, vantage point.
I have to assume that's already a record for that card.
Oh, there's no question about it. Yeah, absolutely. So we can go on to the next one. So the reason I chose this card is, first of all, obviously, again, rookie card of Bobby Orr, and he has the 66 tops and the 66 tops test. There's two different versions. What's interesting is that the regular tops issue has a richer look to it. The tops test one is more scarce overall in terms of just general rarity. But this card, the wood grain is darker. The colors tend to be a little bit richer. And on this card, when you look at, again, the quality of the card inside the grade, outside of very light touches on the two left corners, so the upper left and the bottom left, that's about it. I mean, it's very well centered. The print quality is outstanding. So it's a great example. If you're looking for an 8 and you don't want just any old 8, this is a nice option for a discerning eye.
And we've had a few Orr rookies over the last few months in 5s, 6s, and 7s. And one thing I noticed when I was looking at this one, in the corners of the gray TV screen, the two different hues of the white and the gray. And sometimes it seems that gets muddled, but on this one, it's two distinct different colors.
Right. It's again, the print quality, it's just razor sharp, great color. I mean, you see because of that, like you said, you see every detail, behind him. So it's just a great aesthetically pleasing example in the 8th grade.
And the crowd's really sharp too. You can see all those 60s style choices people
right.
made.
You can see all the colors, all the different colors in the background. That's right. No, it's a great, it really is a great example. So we can move. Yeah, there. So here's another one. I chose this one to kind of pair up in a way with the Yastrzemski. Again, we talked about the Clemente rookie. We talked about Yaz and the Yaz rookie. 67 Clemente, it's not his toughest card, but aesthetically, it's one of his best looking cards. I mean, a lot of collectors of the 1967 top set, period, the reason they're drawn to this set, it's one of the cleanest designs of the decade. Like, they had a lot of wildly different designs. 60 tops was wildly different from 62 tops and so on and so forth. But the 67 tops baseball set, it's so clean looking. And I think the collectors that build this set, that collect this set, they're really drawn to that. And this card, like the Yaz, it's as nice as this card could possibly be. I mean, the centering, the registration, the print quality is just off the charts. And what is also neat about this card is this was really 1965 to 68 was a great run for Clemente. He won, that's when he won his MVP in 66. I believe he won 3 batting titles in the 4-year span. So it's right in the heart of really what was his best personal performance. Of course, he won a world championship in 60 and one in 71, but right in the middle there was probably his best personal individual performance. And so this is kind of right at the height of his powers.
And a great portrait of him. He has a few examples that they chose kind of weird pictures, but this is a good one. The look of determination, and what I like on this
too, it's so nice.
Some bad art direction by choosing the purple for the Pirates when he's got the dark colored sleeves. I mean, the Pirates are yellow. Go with yellow on this one, but on the 10, that S still jumps out at you. On a lot of them, it just kind of bleeds into the black sleeve there.
Yeah, no, I mean, this one is just when you see it in person, I mean, as unbelievable as our high resolution images are online, when you see it in person, it just jumps out at you. I mean, it has that quality to it. So again, performing very well, already. We'll see if it has more life and extended bid. But again, collectors, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, I mean, they respond to cards that look like this. So just a great example.
Flawless. I mean, not all 10s are quote unquote flawless, but this one definitely is.
Okay, so moving on to some memorabilia. So this is I had the pleasure of working with the consignor on this particular piece, and this is one of my favorite pieces in the whole auction. So I could talk for days. I'm going to cut it down very briefly here.
Great story on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, the piece itself. So there's a great photo that we have of Babe Ruth with Hank Greenberg, and if we could pull that up, I want to show that first before I get into this. So what Babe Ruth is doing here, he's at his New York apartment, and you could see that the Babe he's looking frail. It's probably after he had cancer late in his life, and he's at his New York apartment, and he's showing fellow Hall of Fame slugger Hank Greenberg his personal copy of this display piece. So this piece was made for Ruth after 1927, when of course he hit 60 home runs and set the record, the first one to ever do it, to hit 60 home runs in a season. And one could argue that of all the accomplishments that Babe Ruth had, that this was the most significant. And it's certainly one clearly, as you can see just in this photo, how much it meant to him personally. Like this was something he lived for, the home run. That was something he was proud of, how much he changed the game. And you can just see, I mean, he has this on his own wall. So when this was made for him, he had at least a handful of copies made for close friends. One of those people was his former teammate and roommate, Jimmy Reese. This is a previously undiscovered copy. No one knew about this until it was consigned now. There are a couple of other examples that have popped up in the marketplace. One of them was to Johnny Mize, another Hall of Fame slugger. Another one was to a personal friend, a restaurateur by the name of Jimmy Donahue. The Johnny Mize example sold about 12 years ago, something like that, 12 to 15 years ago. That's the last one that has come to market. So this is the third copy that has come to market, I believe. Now, what is really interesting about this are a couple of things. There is a letter of provenance from Jimmy Reese. Now, Jimmy Reese, as many baseball fans know, lived a very, very long life. He was a coach with the Angels for a long time. And he wrote a letter of provenance when he gave it to the consignor. So this went straight from Jimmy Reese to the consignor. And what is super interesting is that in the letter of provenance, he says that Babe had 3 of these made. Now, look, we don't know for a certainty how many Babe had made. This is Jimmy's, his recollection of how many Babe probably told him were made. But how amazing is it that after all of this time, nearly 100 years later, there are 3 that have popped up in the marketplace. There are 3 known original copies. That's kind of remarkable. I mean, again, and we don't know how many were made initially. All we know is how many have popped up. But the fact that he noted that in his letter of provenance, and again, with all these years later, all these decades later, it sounds like he was probably pretty, if not entirely accurate, pretty accurate as far as how many of these were given away to people. And finally, as a fitting touch, the Babe in his inscription, if we can zoom in on that inscription on that center photo, he says to Jimmy Reese that, I hope you break this record someday. And Jimmy Reese had a grand total of 8 home runs in his career. So he's showing a little bit of his sense of humor, maybe a little ribbing there, but it does show how close the Babe was to Jimmy Reese. The fact that so few of these were given away to friends. And again, how much this meant to him, the accomplishment, and also how much he loved the display. It's just a remarkable piece all the way around. And to have a letter of provenance on an item of this vintage, again, because Jimmy Reese lived so long, is just, again, it's remarkable.
And it's just going to find its 3rd owner in almost 100 years. Because Reese had it, then our consignor, and then whoever wins it, it'll be just the 3rd owner. So that is incredible for a Ruth piece, which Ruth pieces tend to come up often and buy and sell. So a truly special piece. And I just love that Babe Ruth had a roommate on the team. Like, can you imagine if Ohtani or Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, if they were rooming with people when they're on the road? That's crazy.
Well, according to Jimmy Reese, he didn't have a roommate because Babe was always out all night. So
he was just rooming. He was just rooming with Ruth's suitcase.
Yeah, that's right. That's what he says. So I just think this is such an amazing piece, and when you see it in person, it really just has great eye appeal. It has a great display quality to it. So just again, what a piece of history, and the connection to Jimmy Reese going all the way back is just quite, again, remarkable.
And if you win that piece, then you've got to frame that photo of Ruth looking at it right next to it. So when you're showing it to your friends, you can be like, it's just like me showing you this is just like Ruth showing Greenberg this.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, Babe Ruth didn't sign a copy to himself. I always have to, when people see that photo, they're like, oh, is it the same way? Well, that's his personal copy, unsigned, but it does show. I mean, it's hanging on his wall. I mean, what does that say? How much is that? How much did it mean to Ruth? So that's what makes this. It's more than just a collectible. It's something that connects to both Reese and Ruth, and again, a great piece of history here.
That's awesome.
So if we can go to the. So speaking of Ruth, the reason I picked this one to talk about is there's kind of a saying in the autograph world where guys will say, veteran collectors say, oh, that's a no doubter. And what they mean by that is, look, if you or Tony or I, if we sat here and we signed our name 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, there's going to be variances. There's going to be times where we simply miss, like we don't get it right. This one, first of all, it's in terms of just visual appeal and aesthetics for a Ruth signature, it's right on the money. I mean, it's sort of from beginning to end, he nailed it in terms of the centering on the sweet spot and the construction of all the letters. It's one of those just no doubters, right on the money from that perspective. In addition, if we can zoom in really far on like the Babe part of the autograph, that sort of thing. You see that? So this is interesting. You see that kind of speckled look it kind of has on the surface of the ball. I love that because what that shows you is that's the age of the ink seeping into the leather on the surface. You can't recreate that. It's that happens over time and age. From an arm's length perspective, or if you put this on a shelf, of course, it looks pristine. But that natural part of it, to me, is I love seeing that. I enjoy it because that's part of the natural process. It's kind of like when you see a nice patina on an old bat or an old award, something like that. But I love it both from an aesthetic viewpoint in terms of the construction of the autograph and then kind of that natural, consistent aging, which is, again, I look at it as a positive. I don't think that's not a negative at all. And if you put this on a shelf, again, if you want to pay $150,000, $250,000 or more for a technically higher graded example, that's fine. But if that's not in your budget, this is a great opportunity to get something that when you put this, you look at this across the room, I mean, it looks spectacular. It's technically graded a little bit lower, but it's a beautiful all around example, in my opinion.
You can see the signature from across the room on that one. And we had that on our display at our Chicago office. And a client came in who's a watch collector, baseball fan, but he never had bought a baseball item. And he was looking at that ball and he said, well, that must be worth $1 million, how dark the autograph is. So it's that impressive in person.
Yeah. So again, great opportunity, great option for a collector, especially again, if you don't have the financial wherewithal to go up to the next level. I mean, you get a lot of bang for your buck from an eye appeal perspective here.
100%.
So here's a switching gears to a more modern era.
We don't talk enough gloves.
Gloves. Okay, so let's talk about this one. So, when it comes to gloves, it's you guys talk about it all the time. I know Tony loves talking about game worn anything, jerseys, bats, whatever it is. We talk about if you can connect it to a special period, a special year, a special accomplishment. So a lot of people know that Cal Ripken Jr. kept a lot of items and he sold a lot over the past several years. It went out into the marketplace, bats, jerseys, and gloves, and so forth. However, most of those items were from let's call it the midpoint to the end of his career. This is from 1983. This is pinned to his first MVP, World Series championship, arguably one of his best all-around seasons, period. And it has, you can see just by looking at it, has tremendous use. One thing that you'll notice in the modern era game in baseball is that a lot of game use gloves that come to market, They have very light use. These are not ones that were worn for long periods of time. This one clearly was. It has a letter of provenance from Cal Ripken. It's just a great example. If you're looking for something that separates itself from most of the other gloves that are out there on Cal Ripken, I can't think of a better example than this. I mean, if you could wish upon a star and say what would be the best glove to have of Cal Ripken Jr., you could make the argument that one used during the 1983 season would rank right up there, and perhaps be the best, best of them all. So I love it from that perspective. Again, pinning it to the World Series championship and MVP year.
And if you look right there in the middle in that shot where his pointer finger came out that hole,
Right.
the wear right there, he almost wore a hole back into the glove.
Right. That's the natural soiling from that finger. And, Cal Ripken, I mean, again, he's such a popular player. And this was, kind of that first run. He came into the league, and performed right out of the gate. So this is that during that first part of his career where he kind of took Major League Baseball by storm. And they said, who is this 6'4", 200 and something pound shortstop? He was the guy that really changed the way we view that position and kind of paved the way for some of the great shortstops who came along later who were bigger and had power and that sort of thing. So he was really a trendsetter in that regard.
And if you're going to get a top tier glove, you want it from a shortstop, a third baseman, or a center fielder. Those are the ones, and especially one that's an icon like Ripken.
And he was very protective of his stuff, wasn't he? I mean, with his gloves, I've heard some stories that he would get mad at people if they had one of his gloves, at a show or something. I heard he was very protective of his.
He was well ahead of his time, and some players, it's amazing. I mean, some players even today, they're very loose in terms of letting their bats and jerseys and gloves go free. He kept a lot of his stuff, and that's why you saw that big collection enter the marketplace, over the past several years. So yeah, Tony, you're right on. He was very protective of his stuff. So and again, that early stuff, he didn't keep as much of that. And with a glove that has this much use, this was not during a time where guys were using many, many gloves during a regular season. Like, this is a different kind of thing. So to have it this early in his career, I think is fantastic.
That's an awesome piece. One of the best gloves we've offered, actually.
Yeah, no, I think it's. So this is kind of again, really switching gears here. I saw this, and the reason I threw this on the list is simply because I saw it in person, and it really caught my eye, and it's not even sports related. So it just goes to show, I mean, again, there's like a recurring theme, for the three of us when we've been talking here. Sometimes just the eye appeal of something just grabs your attention, and you lock eyes on it. You just want to look at it. This is one of those things. The artwork on this display piece is simply spectacular. You have all the cards, and it's very representative of the artwork of that time with the Allen and Ginter's product, both in sports and all of these other categories. But that action shot at the center, the artwork where the cards are sort of built around, is just so captivating in person. I just threw this on the list because, again, this is one of those pieces you look at it and go, wow, that would look great in my office. And it's not even something that's on your list necessarily as a collector, but it's so striking when you see it in person. So that was the reason I threw it on here.
The quality and of the artwork and the condition of it are unbelievable. I spent a good 15 minutes just poring over the details on this one. It looks like it was made today. That's the condition it's in. And the hues and the artwork, that vintage lithography, it is a stunning piece. That's something that you could hang that anywhere, and it's going to attract everyone's attention, whether they know anything about it or not.
Exactly. I mean, again, why do we buy this stuff? Because it looks great. It looks cool. This is a prime example of, yeah, you're right. You could throw this on the wall and invite 20 sport, baseball or football collectors into the room, and they'll all stop and look at it and go, wow. It just, so sometimes things can be captivating, even when they're not on your personal collecting list.
And we have another that is from a large collection of those that we're going to be selling over the next few months. There's another Allen and Ginter poster, same quality, different type in this auction. And we're going to have a few more. Most of them are non-sports, but it's an unbelievable collection. So well taken care of, all, 150 years old, essentially. That is a beautiful piece.
No, 100%. Yeah, I know the piece you're referring to. And yeah, they're both of these are just really, really striking. I think I have maybe one or two left before I let you guys get back to this. So this is, so we have a couple of Ichiro bats, a few Ichiro bats in the auction, but I pulled this one out. I took some pictures, amateur pictures, and threw them on my Twitter feed or my X feed, whatever you want to call it, earlier, just to show people what the barrel looks like. One of the things that is very challenging for any auction house is to capture the degree of use on a hitting zone, because you have to have the right lighting and the right angle. So the standard shots, you can't really see it. All I can tell the bidders out there is that this particular lot, it's a PSA 10 2001 Ichiro Suzuki game used bat, autographed, Rookie of the Year, MVP. That's a nice debut, by the way.
Not bad.
Your first year in the league, I'm the Rookie of the Year and the MVP of the league. Hit 350, steal 56 bases. Just an unbelievable debut by Ichiro. But that hitting zone on the right barrel of this bat is just obliterated with seam impression. So if you like use, if you like heavy use, and you want something that looks great, obviously there's a nice signature there. It's pinned to, you could argue, his best season. Of course, he had the record-breaking hit season a few years later, but Rookie of the Year, MVP right out of the gate. It's a tremendous bat. So we have a few different ones. We have I think 4 or 5 high-grade Ichiro bats. This one, I pulled it out and took a look at it in person, and just, again, if you really like heavy barrel use on the hitting zone, it's an unbelievable example.
And earlier we talked about the pressure on Maris in 61. Ichiro, kind of the same thing in his rookie year. He was a huge star in the other leagues, dominant in the Japanese league. And then when he came here, a lot of people said, yeah, but we'll see what he can do against major league pitchers. And he was dominant. So another thing where he knew his talents, but he had to go out and prove it to a whole new audience, and did it in spades.
Yeah, he shut everyone up very quickly. So good for Ichiro, and obviously going into the Hall of Fame as he should this year. -1 vote. We're still on the lookout for that guy.
Tony, was that your vote? Was that you?
No comment on that. No comment. No.
But yeah, I mean, if you're a bat collector and you're looking for, we talked about it with the Ripken glove. If you could wish, what Ichiro bat would you want? Hard to argue that the rookie MVP bat wouldn't be your first choice. So it's a great option for the bat collector. I think I might have one more on the list before we go. There it is. I think that's it. Okay. This Tom Brady jersey. It's, in terms of, and you guys, touched on it a little bit earlier, in terms of, checking all the boxes, I think this is right up there. We've sold a few very high-end Brady jerseys in the past. I know it has the reserve of 200 right now. There have been lesser Brady jerseys that we have sold for much more than that in the past, and so have other auction houses. 2017 was one of Tom Brady's best statistical seasons. He was on All-Pro. It was one of his MVP seasons. The jersey is photo matched. It was given in a jersey swap to another future Hall of Famer, and Julio Jones, who at his best, Julio Jones was as dominant of a wide receiver as there has ever been in his prime. It's autographed to Julio on the back. It's sandwiched. It's kind of interesting. It's sandwiched in between 2 amazing Super Bowls. He won one and he lost one. Of course, the one he won at the end of the previous season, but technically in this year, was the great comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. And at the end of this regular season, when he wore this jersey, he goes to play the Eagles and loses, largely because Malcolm Butler was benched. Don't get me started on that. But he throws for a Super Bowl record, I think 505 yards, and they never punted in that Super Bowl. That's how much he was going on the offense.
One of his best Super Bowl performances.
Yeah, it just they couldn't stop the Eagles on defense, and so they just kept coming back, and it ended up as a one-score loss for Brady. But and one more thing, I think this is one of the Patriots' more attractive-looking jerseys. They have the different designs, the white, the red. This is I think it's a nice example from that perspective. But I mean, how many boxes do you want to check? The reserves 200. Again, all you have to do is look at our history. You could look at other auction houses' histories. This is, at 200, it certainly seems like a buy based on where other jerseys have landed in recent years. And so I don't know. I mean, again, I know it comes down, it's subjective. It comes down to an opinion. I don't know if we've offered a better all-around Brady than this one. So I'll stop there and stop talking about it.
Well, and I love that it was the rematch with the Falcons from the Super Bowl, the big comeback Super Bowl. And jersey swaps have become so common in sports, but often it's the lesser player getting the more important player's jersey, like with the Mahomes. It was Moreau, the Raiders tight end, who targeted Mahomes jerseys. But here you've got essentially the two best players that were on the field that day, both Hall of Famers. Julio's in top 15 in yards and touchdowns for career. He's going to be a first ballot guy. There's a great photo you can see online of that jersey swap, the two of them talking. I'm sure Brady was saying something like, I wish we could get you over here on our side. How can we make that happen? Always playing the GM. But, especially for that next generation, jersey swap is just a part of the game. And this is the best we've seen as far as who was trading with who.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one more box that is checked on a Brady jersey that has it all. So, I mean, I know the reserves posted. All you have to do is compare this jersey to any others that have come into the marketplace at Heritage or otherwise. It stacks up against just about any of them.
Yeah, and that color rush style, I think, is the best style for the Patriots. It's just like we were talking about with the cards, the aesthetics. That jersey has the aesthetics of just the look of it.
Yeah, and not surprising, he had a very good performance that game, not just during the regular season, but it's photo matched to a very good game for Brady. So it has everything. And so I that's one of the ones I wanted to mention, but I've taken up too much of your time.
Joe, we love your analysis. It's
there's your fan, Stephen Michaels. See, we really appreciate your time and insight as always. Always great to have you here in Dallas. And now get back on the phones and help those clients out with their last minute questions. We've got about 40 minutes before extended bidding begins. And thanks again, Joe.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Good luck to all the bidders out there.
All right. Exciting time, as we said. Yeah.
Baseball cards have never been as nice as how he describes them. I got to tell you.
That additional insight from those years and decades with PSA and as a collector. But, while we're talking cards, we might as well talk some modern cards, Tony. And this is one I love right here. We haven't talked LeBron yet, but this is the 2009 Upper Deck Exquisite LeBron Noble nameplates. This one also with the aesthetics, just a beautiful card. And of all the issues of Noble nameplates from Upper Deck, there were 7. This one's numbered 17 out of 18. It's the lowest because others were numbered 23 and 25. So it's the rarest of the LeBron Noble nameplates. It's graded a PSA Mint 9, Pop 1, none superior from just those 18. And in fact, of all the LeBron Noble nameplates throughout the years, only 7 have reached a 9 or higher. So for whatever reason, those Noble nameplates were getting dinged or had some condition issues, but not this one. And nice, bold autograph from LeBron as well. Here you got the 3-color patch and a great action image of King James there. I'm a big fan of this one.
Well balanced off. I mean, you're right. You've got the jersey swatch, the nice autograph just below, and then you've got the action shot. And, LeBron, some people love him, some people hate him, but no matter what, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen where someone's going to score that many points again and be that dominant for such a long period of time. And I think there's going to be a time where people are going to really realize just how special he was in the game of basketball.
It still is. He scored 40.
Yeah,
again.
I know. That's amazing to be his age and be that dominant still. And now he's got some help now too, I guess. So
unfortunately, said the Mavericks fans. But great card in 2009 MVP season for LeBron. So it's really got it all as far as LeBron collectors go. And this one I had to pull out. We've seen a few of them, but rare item. But what a display piece. This is the 1986 Fleer uncut sheet. We've seen some really incredible uncut sheets in the last couple years, some unique ones. And of course, the 86 Fleer is an iconic set. And of course, it's got the Michael Jordan. Tommy, it's on the bottom row, second from the left.
Mike knows exactly where it's at.
I sure do. I mean, this one has so many stars. It's just a wash in Hall of Famers. They're all over it. But of course, you've got the Jordan. But basketball collectors of every sport love this issue. So what an incredible display piece to have hanging in your house or your office or your man cave or your she shed, if you will. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, and the colors are bold and strong on that issue, and they come through in this example.
Yeah, I mean, there hadn't been a basketball set for 4 or 5 years. I know that they made star cards, but I mean, and this one, is the rookie card for a lot of these guys, and especially having that Jordan in there. It's a beautiful looking set with the red, white, and the blue and Fleer, and there's just not enough of these out there actually there's a lot of good rookies of a lot of great Hall of Famers, and to have that whole sheet is just it's amazing, and it's a great looking.
Yeah, it's in great condition, and I think you talked earlier about how many people came into the industry or back into the industry over the last few years, and I think that's been a factor in some great prices for uncut sheets because they're looking for things to display and show off, and uncut sheets fit the bill there.
Yeah, it's very unique, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of these that are going to be found anytime soon.
Oh, definitely not. And speaking of not many available and not many being found, one of the rarest cards in the hobby here, this is the 1910 T210 Old Mill Cigarettes Shoeless Joe Jackson. Just so scarce. This is one of only 8 in the SGC population. And that number only goes up to 23 when you combine the PSA population. So very scarce card. And like we talked about earlier, any Joe Jackson anything is hard to come by. And I love the portrait here with that old style jacket. We've sold a few of those style jackets, the duster length with the large white buttons. Great look. They need to bring that back, Tony.
I would love to see that. I know we had one in our New York office. I think it was last year we had one on display there, and it just jumps out at you on that mannequin. And there's so much style and there's so much quality when they made these. And this one here, of course, I mean, being Joe Jackson, I think we said before, not a lot of his cards or anything of his out there. And this is a really, really beautiful looking card.
And a testament to how great he was. This is a minor league card. He was playing for the New Orleans Pelicans at the time. That was his final year of minor league ball. The next year, he'd go to the Cleveland Naps and become the only player in history to hit over 400 in their rookie year, second only to Ty Cobb in batting average that year in his debut. So even those minor league teams had those stylish jackets, Tony.
A lot of quality. A lot of quality. That's impressive, though. No.
All right, another rarity here from one of the most popular sets. This is a T206 Ty Cobb bat off shoulder. We've all seen that, right? But the key here is the back, the Lennox Brown back. One of the rarest backs, advertising backs for the T206. In fact, this is one of just 2 Cobb bat off shoulder Lennox Brown backs in the PSA population. Think about how many these cards are in the PSA population, and there's only 2 with this back. In fact, only 0.14% of all T206 cards have a Lennox back when you combine the black and the brown Lennox, and just 2 of these, and this is the higher graded example of those 2.
And it's a great look. I mean, Cobb with the bat in hand in the background. I mean, there's just a lot of really cool selling points on it. And I mean, it's Cobb and it's T206. I mean, how do you top that? Especially with that back on it.
This next one is a true rarity, and this one really caught my eye. We've actually in the last year had a few Minko cards, the Japanese cards, and this is the 1958 JCM 30A Doyusha team name back, Jackie Robinson. And I love this portrait here of Jackie. So Minko is a card tossing game. That's what these were made for. Even back then in the 50s, Japanese were huge baseball fans. They had baseball cards too. And a lot of those are starting to make their way into the market, but not many survived. It was a card tossing game, just like kids in the 50s were playing games with their Topps cards. The Japanese kids were doing the same. They tossed them, they put them in their pockets. So few survived, and the ones that did survive are in pretty poor condition. So this is one of just 10 examples of this card in the PSA Pop report, and it's a VG3, which is a Pop 3, just 2 higher, but a really unique Jackie Robinson entry, and another one that shows how popular he was worldwide, making it into the Japanese issue.
This one was barely played with.
Yeah, barely played with. Whoever owned it
games
wasn't very good, so they were getting knocked out early and didn't get a bunch of turns with it. Yeah, incredible example here. And you got the Japanese script on the side and the gold Dodgers across the front. I don't know if that was an alternate jersey that they were using. Another
one game style, Mike. It's a one game style that they wore. Captured.
All right, Tony, let's talk some autographs.
Yeah, this one, anytime you see a postcard signed, penny postcard type of thing, I always look at the date, especially when you're writing this stuff. And this one here is a Babe Ruth signed cut, but it's an envelope which was dated, I believe, 2 days before the first Hall of Fame induction, which makes it really, really special. The thing about this, I mean, everybody knows, Cooperstown opening up was a huge, huge deal. And they signed a lot of things, but not a lot of them survived through the years. This is one that did. The postcard envelope signed by Ruth. Of course, everybody wants a Ruth autograph, and he's the one that has always been the top autograph in our hobby. This one signed, especially when it was signed, makes it really special, I think.
Good note there. Good paying attention when you were writing that one.
I got lucky, I guess. The next one was just when we were going through the auction, just kind of looking at things. After the season, from 26 to, I think, 28, 29, until they were kind of outlawed for doing this. After the season, Ruth would take the show on the road, and they would actually do exhibitions, typically out west. They would or make their way out west after the season and have exhibitions to help get the sport going a little bit. And this is one of the very few broadsides that I have ever seen from the Ruth Barnstorming Tour. Of course, they went to a lot of different cities, but there's not a lot of this out there that has survived. And this one's in South Bend, which is kind of cool. It's got Ruth on the front, Babe Ruth, and
Notre Dame tie-in there.
Yes, exactly. And it's just a really cool piece. And it's, baseball back then, it was popular, but they really helped spread the game out towards the West Coast even. And that's one of the reasons that they did it. That's one of the reasons that baseball became so popular, is because Ruth went out there, did exhibitions for fans, and he was in a different city, I think, every day for probably a month or two. But this is one of the really neat broadsides, especially having Ruth on from 26, of course, the year before Murders Row.
I wonder if he went to the linebackers bar, which is right in the parking lot for Notre Dame Stadium, and it was in existence back then, I believe. So
I bet he might have. That wouldn't shock me.
Very cool piece. Up next, we have a great collection of panoramic photos in this auction, which are one of my favorite for display. So this is the 1952 New York Yankees. We also have in the auction 1925 Cardinals, 21 Cleveland Indians, 52 Brooklyn Dodgers, 1916 Browns, 1925 Pirates. So some great options, but this is a really high quality one. The details came through very nicely. You got the whole squad there, so many Hall of Famers and legends. And then on the very far right, in the last position, you've got Mr. Mickey Mantle there in his first full season with the Yankees, looking quite young. But these are so cool, these panoramic photos. You don't see them very often. They're so big. Not many of these probably survived, but a very cool touch. And why don't teams do this now, Tony?
I wish they would. I wish they would.
Cram them all in 5 rows, and it's just your normal size. Let's get them all in a line so you can see the
like
full
this
uniform.
I like this look so much. And these were produced in very small quantities. They didn't make these. You couldn't buy them at the ballpark. A lot of times these were only for the players or executives of the team. And yeah, there's just such a great look because in almost all these, there's nobody in the stadium. It was probably done right around batting practice, everybody in uniform. And the thing that makes these so difficult is storage.
Yes.
They didn't have these beautiful frames really back then to store them, or plastic to put them in. So many of these, they were rolled up. There's cracking involved. The ones in this auction, the ones that I saw, were just gorgeous. They're well taken care of. And yeah, these you're never going to find a lot of these out there. And a lot of times they would be teams that won the World Series. They're really, really, it's a great look, crystal clear on some of these as well. A lot of times you just don't see that kind of quality. And there's a lot of pitfalls on these things, especially with storage and the cracking. These are just gorgeous and in amazing condition.
Yeah, that's the thing about this collection is they are very high quality. And what I love about the 52 Brooklyn Dodgers ones too is Jackie Robinson's in that same position Mantle was on the far right. I don't know how that happened, but the two top stars, they just don't want to put them in the middle. But
didn't they have to? How did they shoot those? Like those early ones, didn't they have to like splice it together?
Well,
I thought.
Glad you asked, Tony. They'd have a camera that moved very slowly and captured the image. And in fact, we've sold a few where there'd be some prankster who would be the first on the left. And after the camera moved past them, they'd run around behind the camera and get on the right so that they're in it both. That's how slow it moved. You could run around and get in the photo twice.
You could be in twice. Nice.
But the details are really great on these. You can see their expressions. You can see the full uniforms. It's a great piece to just put up and pour over when you're looking at it.
Yeah. I saw these came in, oh man, about a month ago, and just seeing them all together, it's just amazing. And yeah, they should do this again because it's such a great look. I'd rather have this than have 4 rows of people.
Yeah, where they're sitting down, you can't see all the uniforms. You usually just get their head. Let's get them all together standing up.
It's a good idea for 2025.
All right, this next piece is, we've had some cool game used baseballs, but this is one of the most interesting. This is from the 1909 World Series, the Pirates and the Tigers, Game 6 final out ball. So 1909 was the only time in that World Series that Cobb and Honus Wagner, the top 2 players in the league, played against each other. And this one is really cool. It's got great provenance. It was the final out was made by third baseman George Moriarty, who put the tag on a player, kept the ball, and it comes from his collection. And he noted it all on there. the Pirates would go on to win, of course, and this is a game they won as well. But I like that Moriarty wrote in all caps, so it was like someone screaming nowadays, but puts all the details. Last ball in play, Detroit versus Pittsburgh, sixth game, World Series, 1909, October 14th. Wilson tagged out, stealing third, ending the game. Detroit 5, Pittsburgh 4. So great provenance there. That's the tough thing with those game-used balls is you have to have the provenance to be able to sell it because you just never know, and they're hard to authenticate. But this is a very cool one from an important moment.
There's so many times on these baseballs where the person who got it had passed away and they didn't document it the right way.
Right.
So that you're right on that. It's a very good point. On the baseballs, it's difficult a lot of times because somebody will have a story who has a story, and it very well could be the actual baseball, but without that provenance and without that documentation, it's really difficult. And this one does have it. And from the 1909 World Series, no less, a very significant World Series.
Yeah, that's an important one. PSA has a full LOA for the inscription with all the notes there, so it ties it all together. And speaking of unique items, this one, when it came in, I remember I said, "What is that?" And it's a letter M from the original Yankee Stadium. It was on the facade of Yankee Stadium, and it was there in 1923 World Championship season. So very unique piece here, and good size, 48 by 32, and it's an inch thick. So another cool display piece if you're a Yankee fan. But yeah, you can see it right there. It was on the facade, and how somebody kept this, I just don't know. I'd love to get the story behind that. But you know how baseball fans are. It was probably when they were changing it out, whoever was pulling it down, the union guys, like, well, if they're just going to throw this out, I'm taking this one.
I'm going to take something with me. Yeah. And just think of, how many games that sign has seen, the amount of history that has seen. And you're right. When that came in, I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, an M? What is that? What is that even for? But again, such a cool piece from Yankee Stadium, no less. Not from 78 on up. We're talking from the beginning, from 23, which is very, very significant. And I can't imagine many of these have survived the years. And this one survived the elements of many winters and looks in pretty good shape yet.
Yeah, I like it. It held up well. That had to be made to survive if it's going to be on the facade in New York City, go through the hot summers and the freezing winters. So don't worry, you can put it up on your wall and it'll hold out.
The man cave for sure. It's definitely one for the man cave.
All right, and this next one we definitely had to talk about. A lot of times we talk about a piece being Smithsonian worthy. And we can actually prove that this one is. This is John Carlos's jacket from the 1968 Mexico City Olympics. This is what he was wearing on the podium when he and Tommy Smith gave the Black Power salute when they received their medals. One of the most important sports and civil rights coming together moments in history. You can see this in one of the most iconic photos ever taken, the photo of them on the podium, and they put a lot of thought into that. They didn't wear shoes, and they wore black socks to symbolize the poverty that racial inequality had caused. They're wearing these scarves that they brought that were to symbolize and memorialize the people who had died because of racial inequality. They split the black gloves, and it's just one of the most important Olympic items we've ever offered. And so Tommy Smith's jacket from that is in the Smithsonian on display. I've seen it there. I can attest to that. So that's never coming out. This one is consigned by John Carlos himself. Great guy. We did an interview with him, which we're going to play after the show if you want to see that. He's got a lot of great stories, as you might imagine. But he met a runner from Africa during the Olympics, and they really hit it off. That runner from Africa was really moved by what they did on the podium. He talked to John Carlos afterwards, and Carlos gave him this jacket. and it was in that family's possession for 50 years. And then that sprinter's son gave it back to John Carlos. And now it's being offered. It's going to find a new home tonight, a really iconic piece of civil rights history and Olympic history. And John Carlos was looking for someone to become the custodian of it. And we're going to find out who that is tonight, and just so cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is one of those, it's not really just sports. It's everything. It's Americana. I mean, it's social justice. It's everything. I mean, this one here, I'm really curious because I know there's been a lot of videos on this thing. There's been a lot of social media posts on this.
A lot of coverage on it.
Yeah, there's been great coverage, and you'll see that photo cell every once in a while. A Type 1 gets great money. This is the actual jacket that's photo matched. Very curious to see what this ends at. I think it's going to be an amazing number.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who wins that. Just a really special piece. We talk about cards and collectibles. This is something that kind of transcends that, and it's really a piece of history. And it's something that when we had it on display in Chicago, a couple people came in, saw it, and instantly recognized it. And they said, "Is that what I think it is?"
And you know what? Every auction, you have some pieces that just go crazy at the end that'll just keep going, bidding well into the night. That's the piece that I think in this auction might really take off, because again, it's not just sports, it's everything.
Yeah, very cool piece. Tony, you're up. It's your turn, buddy.
All right. What do we got? Oh, 1960s Packers charm bracelet. I'm sorry. Cal Jr. glove. Joe did a great job on this one. I don't know if there's anything else I could add. I just, when I was thinking of this, he was so protective of his gloves. People would bring up gloves to him at shows sometimes, and he would give them a little bit of a tongue lashing sometimes, and he'd say, "That's not my glove. That's not my glove." That's why when I saw this piece, the 83 glove, I was like, wow, that is really special. Of course, the World Series year, the MVP year, and early in his career, and great use. Gloves are such a personal item for players.
Right.
Not a lot of them get out, and they use them from beginning to end a lot of times. I know Devon White, I had the conversation with him when we sold his collection. He literally had one glove his entire career. And when he put it on, and he
all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he got it fixed, and he had Gold Glove labels. They had to keep putting them on because just of the use and everything. But that glove really stood out to me. This Cal Ripken Jr. glove.
Very cool piece. Well said. Oh, a bat from Tony. Finally, we get to hear Tony talk some
Frank
bat.
Robinson game used bat. There's not a lot of his game used bats out there. Some guys have a higher population of bats. Frank Robinson, you don't see a ton of his bats out there, and I think this guy is really underrated. Triple Crown winner. I think he won MVPs in both leagues, if I'm not mistaken. I think that at the Orioles,
500 home runs.
Yeah, exactly. In the Reds, I mean, this guy was
first African American manager too, I believe.
Yep, yes, he was with the Indians, I think, in '76. And there's just not a lot of his good quality game used bats that have surfaced, and this one here is a really nice gamer of a guy who I think doesn't get the love that he probably should get.
Yeah, that's a cool piece, and it's got nice use on it. I was looking at it the other day. Mm-hmm. Speaking of rare bats, this next one is about as rare as you can get. This is a 1966 Sandy Koufax game-used bat. Tony, what kind of hitter do you think Koufax was?
I bet he was okay. I'll say 175. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what his average was. I didn't.
So this is the only Koufax bat in the PSA database. He only ordered 19 bats his whole career, and this is the only one that's been authenticated by PSA. So kind of unique to have a pitcher's bat. As Tony said, pretty good batter, so we'll take his word for it. But this is the only one. If you want a Koufax item and a bat, this is it. And it has great provenance, too. He gave it to his good friend and Dodgers trainer, Wayne Doc Anderson, and he signed it and inscribed it to him. It's to Doc's wife, actually. It says, "To Hazel, this is a Doc tamer in case of emergency. Don't hesitate to use it. Best wishes, Sandy Koufax." So he knew that family well. Nice little joke there. So it's always cool when you have the provenance right there on the back, because then you get to tell the story when you're showing people this. You get to say it's the only known Koufax game-used bat, and you get to say that as well.
And it's an all-star bat, which
yeah,
they only made a few of those, probably 2 or 3 tops per all-star game, and probably for Koufax, maybe even 1. So there's a lot of really cool aspects of that bat. I mean, all-star, the autograph, that's incredible that he'd write that. That's really neat too.
Yeah, nice joke. Funny guy, obviously. Let's do these 2 football gamers, Tony, and then we'll take a quick break and come back before we hit extended bidding.
15-minute warning.
Special moment here, because you've got a Cowboys fan talking about a New York Giants item, and I'm only going to do that because the Giants are so down right now, so I feel okay doing it. But this is probably the most significant Giants jersey to reach the auction block. This is the jersey Phil Simms was wearing in Super Bowl 21 when the Giants won the Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl. He was the Super Bowl MVP. It's photo matched to the game. Really memorable Super Bowl. But, special piece here. The note I like about it, he was wearing this jersey when he was the first person to say after the game, "I'm going to Disney World." He made the deal with Disney, and that was the first time that happened, and this is the jersey he was wearing when he did that.
I love the patch, Spider Lockhart patch. I think that is just amazing. You don't see a lot of the, now Super Bowl, they have Super Bowl patches, but that's what they wore when Spider Lockhart passed away in 1986. And yeah, I mean, it has to be the most iconic Giants jersey. Their first Super Bowl win and photo matched, and Phil Simms, I mean, he had a heck of a career. For a Giants fan, it doesn't get much better than that jersey right there.
And he's still staying relevant in broadcasting. He's still out there. His son's a fellow Longhorn like me. So I'll say that's why I talked about that one. But when you got an item that you say it's the most important from that team, you got to talk about it.
Gorgeous jersey too, by the way.
Speaking of which, Tony, why don't you tell us about this Paul Hornung jersey here?
This is one of the more unique jerseys I've ever encountered. First heard about it, I was at a show in Philadelphia on a Saturday afternoon. It was presented to me Sunday morning at that show. It was the first time I got to see it in person. And, at the time, it was a Paul Hornung jersey. Well, then it got photo matched. And it got photo matched to the 1957 season, I believe. But just as important, he wore that in practice up until 1964. But the really, and this is an instance where you look at the cup as half full, because the back number is peeling away a bit. So we were a little concerned about condition of this. But what it allowed us to do is, if you look at that back 5 number, that's actually black. Now, for decades on end, everybody said the Packers wore midnight navy and yellow. But when you look at that, if you zoom in on that 5, that is definitely black. That is not midnight navy. So the Green Bay Press Gazette did a really nice article this week stating the Packers actually wore black and yellow jerseys rather than midnight navy and yellow. So some kind of interesting information got out there this week, and it's been a really positive experience. And this is only the second known of this style that I know we had a Jim Ringo within the last 10 years, but a Paul Hornung rookie jersey, which is matched all the way up until 64. This is the highest selling Packer jersey in auction history. So it's an amazing jersey of a Hall of Famer, and it's a really cool story, kind of a feel-good story that broke this week, and it's a record number right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes until extended bidding begins. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, Tony, it's time. We're going to talk wrestling.
I'll be back for that.
Hello, this is Joe Orlando, Executive Vice President at Heritage Sports. When it comes to game-worn relics, the collector's dream scenario is to pinpoint their use to a special era, season, or moment in time through the photo matching process. The ideal outcome is to place the jersey on the back of the player during a positive performance, and, more importantly, to do it during the pinnacle of their career. While many of these artifacts have been lost to time, or the lack of quality imagery prevents a conclusive match from occurring, there are instances where the stars align. A prime example of that can be found in our Winter Platinum auction. Two-time MVP Roger Maris, who played in 7 World Series contests, winning 3 total with both the New York Yankees and later with the St. Louis Cardinals, had plenty of memorable moments during his outstanding career. Still, none compared to his remarkable 1961 season. Maris eclipsed Babe Ruth's seemingly unreachable single-season mark of 60 homers, finishing with 1 more on the final day of the regular season. Since the reluctant hero was more Gehrig than Ruth when it came to his personality, the pressure of the season clearly took its toll on the shy star. But in the end, Maris sat alone at the top. His record lasted for 37 years, even longer than Ruth's, which stood for 34. The offered full and all-original uniform itself is nothing short of spectacular. Beyond its exceptional state of preservation, the unmistakable pinstripe has been photo matched to over a dozen different dates, including multiple home run games. According to the photo matching experts at MyGray, Maris wore only 2 different home pinstripe jerseys and pants during that unforgettable campaign, and this gorgeous ensemble was one of them. Whether you are searching for the ultimate Maris gamer or appreciate iconic tools of the trade, this specimen is as sensational as it gets. The bidding for our Winter Platinum auction is live, and it ends during a 2-day span on February 22nd and 23rd. Remember to get your qualifying bids in now so you can participate in the extended bidding period each night. Until next time, happy heritage hunting.
Joe waxing poetic on that Roger Maris 1961 jersey. But it's time, brother. Let's talk some wrestling. We have 2 incredible wrestling collections. They'll be closing tomorrow night. We're just 8 minutes from extended bidding in session 1. But let's talk tomorrow night. What do we got first, Tony? There it is. Tony's just shocked. In shock.
I know. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. Who is that guy?
Has to be one of the most significant wrestling collections that's ever come to the auction block. Instantly recognizable, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Tony, you brought this one in. Let's hear the story.
Well, I was talking to the family rep today, and before wrestling stuff was, I'm not going to say it was an afterthought, but people, there weren't a lot of people that really bought this material, and if they were, you never knew who they were. There was kind of behind the scenes kind of stuff, and this is the first major wrestling collection that has ever really hit the auction block. And of course, being the Macho Man, the thing about him is, so often in these, like Hulk Hogan's a great example, even Andre the Giant. Hogan wore yellow tights, yellow boots. There wasn't a lot of flair. There wasn't a lot of extras. Well, Macho Man took it to an extreme, as did Ric Flair, and their outfits were very unique. And Macho Man with the sequin robes, but then he really, in the late 80s and up until the end of his career, had these these uniquely designed outfits, which I love. The hot pink and the neon. I think, to me, it's cool, and
it fit his personality perfectly.
It does, absolutely. And the thing about Macho Man is he could talk, and he could wrestle, so he could do everything. And his outfits were made by one guy named is Michael Braun, who made these outfits, and they're all technically one of ones. He didn't make 2 of the same design or anything like that. These were all custom made for Macho Man. And, some of this stuff sold in the early 2000s on eBay, some of the other outfits of his. Well, now you look back and see what they sold for back then and what they're selling for now. I mean, this is incredible. What they've done. A lot of the top ones have photo matched, of course. some iconic outfits from the Macho Man, and most of them are signed as well, which is very significant. He basically went in and signed a lot of his match used material. These have a letter from his widow. And like I said, a lot of these have photo match. Some of these main ones have. And, it gives fans a chance to own a piece of the Macho Man.
Yeah. Somebody who, even if you weren't into wrestling, you knew who he was. He was ever present. The Slim Jim commercials, his promos. If you've never seen the Macho Man cup of coffee promo, just put that in, watch the YouTube video. That is absolutely elite. But yeah, a lot of these are photo matched. And one thing about wrestling is, unlike the four main sports where the teams purchase and order the uniforms, wrestlers did it all on their own. So
Yeah,
they designed them, they ordered them, they paid for them, they were all theirs.
They were independent contractors.
Right.
Who had to pay for their outfits. And I know the Macho Man spent a lot of money on these outfits because they're all custom done. And
those flashy colors aren't cheap, Tony.
No, they can't be. But it's just amazing to me that these haven't surfaced for 20 some years now, and now people get a sampling of what made the Macho Man so unique. And a lot of these show good wear. The nice thing about this collection is it spans his entire WWF to WCW, the NWO. I mean, it's a nice sampling of his entire wrestling career. I think the earliest we have is from 1986, which was used in various promos. And then you've got these unbelievable designs through the 90s and then to the WCW and NWO and until the very end, even his last championship. So it's got pretty much every part of his career.
And I got to talk about my two favorite from this collection. Tommy line item 84 there. So this is a very unique one. And what I love about it is that's, it was used in promos. Yeah, there we go. Is that it? There we go. That's it. But this is what the Macho Man wore to the White House role in 1993. Because of course he did. Is he going to wear a nice brown suit? No. The Macho Man goes somewhere, you got to be the Macho Man, even if you're going to the White House. And I guarantee you, Bill Clinton was loving that. I mean,
absolutely.
I had as much fun. Disappointed if Macho Man was wearing Dockers and a button down. But I would love to have been at that event. That is just great. He also wore it in promos too, but that was his White House outfit. And then the next one, Tommy, this is my absolute favorite. It's the most 90s thing we've ever sold because that is the outfit that the Macho Man wore for an appearance on the Arsenio Hall show. And that's about as 90s as you can get right there. It's photo matched to that to that appearance, so you can see it on the LOA. I bet the Dog Pound was loving it when the Macho Man came out. I watched some clips from that episode, and he was full-on Macho Man in it, and Arsenio was eating it up. So that is just a great piece. And like you said, Tony, it spans his whole career. It's stuff that he wore in the ring, stuff that he wore in promos, stuff he wore in commercials, stuff he wore at the White House, stuff he wore on talk shows. So you've got a little bit of everything. And, we've had these on display. There it is. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
The audience was going nuts too. I thought he was going to body slam Arsenio. But we've had these on display in our Chicago office, in our New York office, here in Dallas, at shows, and everyone sees them and immediately says, is that Macho Man? Is that a Macho Man outfit? Instantly recognizable. So great for display. Yeah, incredible collection. Great job, Tony.
Two things on this. We were at the Royal Rumble, and a little kid walks up, and he points at the display case and goes, Macho Man. And I'm thinking, how would this kid even know who that is? It was amazing. And another thing was at the Super Bowl this year, there was a Slim Jim commercial with the Macho Man in it. So his staying power is unbelievable. And we're seeing great action on these because it was hard to figure out how do you start these bidding wise. And it's really been impressive to see the amount of bids coming in on this collection. It's been a blast.
He's got a lot of fans out there, and I'm one of them. So
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
you are, Tony. And then we've got another incredible wrestling collection. This one hits right at home here in Dallas. We have the Von Erich collection, consigned by Kevin Von Erich. Dallas Legends, wrestling legends. Saw them at the Sportatorium when I was a wee lad. They just had the movie come out, The Iron Claw, last year, that told their very tragic story. Great film. You should check it out. But Kevin Von Erich, he lived in Hawaii for a long time, and then he's moved back to Texas. He decided it was time to find some new custodians for his material, and they've got some really incredible items. This robe here, Kevin wore, and it's an item that they recreated for Zac Efron, who played Kevin in the movie, to wear in the Iron Claw. So he was the Golden Warrior. This is his nickname. So you've got this golden robe. We've got a nice photo of him in the robe as well. Tony, you helped bring this one in too.
Yeah, I got to tell you, they are some among the finest people I've ever met. And of course, in true Von Erich fashion, this money is going towards charity. Camp Appgate is a suicide prevention camp near San Antonio, and that's where a lot of the proceeds are going for this. We got to meet Kevin, just a wonderful man. His daughter was amazing, Kevin's wife. And we got to meet the grandsons who are wrestling now in AEW. Just quality people. It was literally like opening up a time capsule. They had it all spread across their table, and they did the family photo albums, a lot of photos. They have the jackets, and it's just amazing to see these jackets being worn by the brothers. There's one that was worn by, I think it was David, Kevin,
Yeah,
and
that's the
Michael.
next one, Tommy.
That's the one right there, which was worn by all three of them. So, the family did a great job of archiving this, and Kevin was just amazing getting to meet him. I will say he's got some of the largest hands I've ever seen. So that Iron Claw, I can guarantee you when he put that on somebody, it had to hurt. Because I shook his hand and I was shocked. I'm like, wow. But just quality people. And, it's yes, there's a lot of tragedy, but there's also, just when you see Kevin, you get to hear him kind of tell stories, and his wife as well. Just a wonderful bunch of people.
And so great in talking about this collection. They were huge here in Dallas. They were, as big as the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were terrible back then, so that helped.
We used to watch them. I
was going to say, Tony, knowing them in Wisconsin.
Absolutely. If you would have told me that I would be in the same city and that the Sportatorium was, I would have laughed so hard growing up, because that Sportatorium, I wish I could have seen it in person. I remember seeing it on TV and everything, but you got to live it a little closer than I did. So.
But people in Chicago were flipping out about the collection. People in New York, so it was very cool for somebody from Dallas like me to see that they had this. I knew they were stars, but the staying power that it's had, and the movies helping them live on. And then we've got their Hall of Fame plaques from all the family members, all the sons, and Fritz as well, the father, the patriarch of the Von Erichs. And as Tony said, the proceeds are going to a very worthy cause and a very fitting cause, the suicide prevention, Agape Camp, and grief counseling. So these all close tomorrow night. We've got session 2. Extended bidding is started for session 1 right now. So if you've got your bids in for session 1, you can bid. That's a 30-minute clock. Session 2, extended bidding will begin at 10 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So we want to say a huge thank you to all of our consigners. We couldn't do it for you without you. Thank you for trusting us with your treasures. To all the bidders, thank you and good luck tonight and tomorrow. And to the staff of 20 technicians who helps us put on this show, thank you for staying up late on a Saturday night. And Tony, if people want to reach you, how can they?
TonyG at ha.com is my Email 214-409-1997 is my direct line, and we'll be out there hitting the road pretty soon. I think Chicago is my next show, so I'll see you guys in Chicago who's ever going to be showing up there, and it'll be a busy couple months coming up.
And you can reach me at mikep@ha.com, or I run all our socials, so feel free to message us there. We do free appraisals there all the time. You'll be talking directly to me. Thank you to everyone who helped put the show on. Tommy, we're talking about you. And as always, good luck tonight and tomorrow, bidders, and we'll be seeing you. Incredible collection of panoramic photos in our current platinum auction, including this beauty of the 1952 New York Yankees. The World Series champions are posing in their home whites at the house that Ruth built, and this image is a wash of Hall of Famers with Berra, Mize, Rizzuto, Stengel, Dickey, and of course, Mickey Mantle at the far right. Just received an amazing consignment of 19th century posters and banners for tobacco cards. And what's really exciting about this collection is the immaculate condition of all of them. Included is this one for Allen & Ginter's 1888 N28 World Champions set. And as you can see, the colors, the hues, the artistry, all the aesthetics are off the charts. This is a favorite set among collectors that includes early baseball players, bare-knuckle boxers, billiards players, crew and rowing, and American heroes like Annie Oakley. The finest example we've ever seen, and we believe the finest example that exists. Part of our February Platinum auction, and the rest of this remarkable collection is going to be spread out through our 2025 auctions.
Where has this jacket been since 1968?
Well, man, it's actually been in Africa.
Really?
Yeah. Athlete used to run, I think he was a distance runner from Senegal. And just as the game was closing, walking down the street, we and one of my co-athletes, we were walking down the street and we see these guys from Senegal. So I looked at his outfit. I said, man, that's a beautiful outfit. He said, oh, I like yours too. So I said, all right, let's swap. So I swapped with him. Years later, I get a call. And he said, I have something that belongs to you. And I said to him, I said, oh, yeah, what's that? Who are you? And then he explained to me, the fellow that I befriended there from Senegal was his uncle. And he says, oh, uncle, can I have it? Can I have it? And uncle pushed him away and told him, said, no, this is from a king. A king, you can't touch it. So he's asking uncle for it every day. Uncle telling him, no. But when the uncle died, he left the jacket to the nephew. So he called me and he said he had the jacket and this and that, and he wanted to do this and do that and get the jacket back to me. It belonged to me, and he's so honored to meet me, this, that, and the other. And I said to him, I said, well, look, man, I appreciate that. I said, but what's the status, man, of your family back in Senegal? And he said, well, Mr. Carlos, better than 3/4 of the country are poor, very poor. I said, well, maybe God is telling me to do the right thing and put this thing up for auction, and then possibly any monies that we raise, we can send that back to support his family.
You've seen the photo a billion times. You're in the photograph. You've been interviewed about it for books, for magazine articles, for documentaries. When you are reunited with the jacket and have a physical, tangible manifestation of that moment back in your hands, does it all come flooding back to you, or do you live it so much that it's just already there?
Full circle. I mean, everything comes rushing down, all the flashbacks, the whole 9 yards, man. It all brought everything back. That Pacific Day, that time period, the festive activity that we had during those games in terms of all the different cultures and their dress, their foods. it just all flashed back. It was almost like it was a blessing for God to, after all these years and all my trials and tribulations as a result of my activities in Mexico, to bring this back to me and bring it back to me fresh. As it's almost like a rebirth.
But I also wonder, did it bring back to you all of the trials and tribulations that you endured immediately following the raising of the fists in 1968?
You know, I don't really think about the trials and tribulations because I'm one individual that stood on a podium for the world to see. I think more about the trials and tribulation of just a normal everyday person, the trials and tribulation that people of color that they've gone through, people in other parts of the world that they've gone through. So I don't think that I've gone through any more trials and tribulations than they have in terms of pain and suffering for doing, you know, I did it, my pain and suffering as a result of me pulling the blinds open to see let the world see just how much pain people are in as a result of racism and bias and prejudice. So I don't look at my pain any different than those individuals for their pain and suffering just for walking down the street. Not because they stood on the victory stand and put their fist to the sky to make a statement, just merely because of who they are. So no, I don't get hung up on the pain that I had. That's a part of the job, part of the entity that was taking place. When I went to the Olympic Games, I'm saying to myself, you know, I'm here for a statement. I'm not here for medals. If you ever watch that race, you can see if I wanted that gold medal, I could have had that gold medal. I wasn't there for the medal, but I knew I had to win a medal to be on that victory stand. I had gone to Tommy after the quarter semi, and I said to Tommy, I said, listen, man, I'm disenchanted about the fact that the boycott was called off. I want to make a statement. What's your take on that? He said, I'm with you. Now, when he said that, already in my mind and my soul, I'm saying he can have the medal. If he's going to stand with me in this statement that we're going to make, he had a medal. Medal mean nothing to me, but just based on his demeanor about track and field, he idolized medals and trophies and that kind of thing.
Right.
So then I left and I went over, the practice track was across the street from the stadium. And I went over there to find Bud Winters, which was our coach. Mm-hmm. And I said, Bud, I said, man, I have a dilemma. And he looked at me, smiled. He said, what's that? I said, man, I want to give this race to Tommy, but I don't want him to think I'm no poop, but I don't think I'm no punk. And Bud looked at me, smiled, and he said to me, he said, John, you've always been your own man, and you're going to make the right decision no matter what. So when he said that, that kind of like solidified the way I was feeling. By the time I got back to the stadium, I had made up my mind. It's his race. But I knew I had to make the victory stand. So at the same time, you know, my pride is on the line too in terms of me as a runner. So I said, well, what I need to do is let people that know about track and field, that if I wanted this medal to be mine, that's why you see me come off the turn the way I did. Okay, I was way out there. I mean, I must have been 8 meters in front of everybody. And then when we got down towards the end of the turn, I'm looking around, and then we must have been maybe 6-7 meters from the tape. It hit me. Oh, shit. Peter Norman. I forgot about Peter Norman. You see me turn all the way from my left, all the way over to my right, and he was there. What happened, Peter had always run the last 20 meters was the best part of his race. But I got so caught up with Tommy, I forgot about Peter. And when I went into the tape, you know, 7-8 meters, man, you can come from a stride and break into a sprint.
Right.
So all I could do is, you could see the frown on my face going to the tape. I remember when they came, they said, well, we got first and second. I said, nah, coach, we got first and third. I remember telling Stan Wright that. I said, nah, we got first and third. And I was upset that Peter beat me until I looked up at the clock. And when I looked at the clock and saw he had run 20 flat. Ain't no white guy I know of ever ran 20 flat. So I was more excited for Peter than I was for Tommy and myself. You know, when I talked to Tommy at the quarter semi, I said to him, I said, well, what artifacts do you have to bring? And Tommy said he had some gloves. I had the beads. He had a scarf. I had the black sweater. We were both wearing black socks. Okay. Then we had the Olympic Project for Human Rights button, which one I gave one of the buttons to Peter Norman, pinned it on him just before we went out to the podium. So everything was right because each symbol meant a very stern message to society. But the media, the news, they pretty much try and block everything that those symbols stood for. I'd say the better part of 50 years, they never really told our story. They told their story.
And wearing the jacket unzipped was also against USOC policy, correct? That was
I was out of protocol, right?
Right. So it was another rule to be broken to make a statement at that particular moment. Not the shoes, the scarf, the beads, the gloves, but the unzipped nature of the jacket is as important as many of those things.
Well, a lot of people don't know the reason why I had the jacket unzipped is because I had that black sweater on to cover up my USA jersey. Now, some reporters asked me, say, why did you cover up USA jersey? And I explained to them that I was really ashamed of America because I felt America could have done so much better in society than they have shown. So I was ashamed of them. But they was ashamed to be saying that, so they never even, printed or talked about it. That stadium that we ran in Mexico City, I thought was a living organism. It wasn't just, concrete and stone. It was a vibrating and breathing entity. And that's the exact same electricity that I felt when I received it in the mail. When I opened the box and just touched it, man, like a persona came over me. Like I was blown away. I had tears in my eyes. My wife looked at me and she said, well, you all teared up. I said, baby, you just don't realize what I'm going through right now in terms of what was flowing through my mind, what was flowing through my body, the energy that I had. It almost kind of made me feel like it took me back in terms of age. I felt younger, as if though it was yesterday.